The stars above the Galactic Council's main station were calm. Ships moved in smooth patterns, reports came in on time, and everything felt under control. Deep in the command chamber, council members sat around a large glowing table, sipping drinks and discussing trade deals. Then a soft beep interrupted the peace. A junior officer stepped forward, looking nervous. Unidentified ship, entering restricted space. Origin, Earth. The words made some members smile. Earth, the small new planet, with barely a seat at the table. No one had taken them seriously. Their technology was decent, their behavior polite, but they stayed quiet, too quiet. One counselor laughed. Let them come. Maybe they're lost. Another replied, maybe they're finally brave enough to explore. Or stupid. On the screen, the ship appeared. It was alone, shaped differently from anything the council had seen before. Not large, not small, but strange. Its energy signature pulsed in a slow rhythm, steady, like a heartbeat. High Admiral Threx, commander of the elite council fleet, watched quietly. He didn't laugh. He narrowed his eyes. They're moving straight toward us. No response to our scans. No response to communication. Councillor Dran leaned forward. Then send a warning. Remind them where they are. A message was sent. Standard protocol. Simple words. You are entering restricted council space. Turn back immediately. There was no reply. Instead, a message came from the Earth's ship, short, cold, and direct. This is your only warning. Do not approach. The room fell silent. Councillor Dran scoffed. Is that a threat? From one ship. Admiral Threx didn't smile. It could be a test, or a mistake. I'll send Omega Strike to handle it. Omega Strike was the Council's strongest response fleet. 12 advanced warships, experienced in hundreds of missions. The fleet had ended invasions, stopped rebellions, and kept peace for decades. Within minutes, Omega Strike was launched. The Council watched on the large screen as the ships moved into formation, heading toward the lone Earth ship. Reports came in. No activity from the human vessel. Just silence. Back in the council chamber, jokes continued. Maybe it's just a science ship. Maybe it broke down and now it's scared. Maybe we should tow it home and teach them how to knock first. But Admiral Threx kept watching. His fingers tapped the table. Something felt wrong. Too calm. Too quiet. He zoomed in on the human ship. It looked simple. No heavy weapons. No visible defenses. Just smooth black metal and a single blue light glowing at the front. The fleet moved closer. 2,000 units away. The fleet's captain reported. Still no response. 1,500. No movement. 1,500 to 1,000. The captain paused. Admiral, sensors are... Odd. The ship's not giving off the same readings. It's like it's hiding something. Keep moving, Threx said, voice firm. Stay sharp. Then, something unexpected happened. The Earth ship stopped completely. No more movement. It just... waited. The council chamber grew quiet. The jokes faded. The glowing table dimmed as the fleet crossed the last few units. Admiral Threx leaned in. Status, sir, the captain said, voice tense. Our communications are down. What? Do you mean down? Just static. All channels. Power readings. They single quotes. Read... Climbing. Slowly, controlled. Like it's charging something. Councillor Dran stood. This is a bluff. Fire a warning shot. No, Threx said sharply. We don't fire first. Not unless we have to. Everyone stared at the screen. The fleet now surrounded the Earth's ship, and then one of the council ships blinked off the map. No explosion, no lights, no sounds, just gone. A dot on the screen... vanished. Where did it go? Someone whispered. The captain's voice cracked. Sir, we lost contact. No trace. Another ship blinked off. And another. Admiral Threx stood, his voice low but clear. Pulled them back. Now the command was sent, but no ships moved. They're not responding. The captain said, Sir, something static filled the chamber. And then... a voice, not loud, not angry. .com. You were told not to approach. The council chamber froze. Admiral Threx didn't move. His eyes were locked on the screen. The Earth ship still hadn't fired a single shot. It just sat there, as the council's most powerful fleet began to vanish, one by one. No one spoke. No one laughed. The warning had been given, but no one had listened. *12 ships stood in formation. floating in the blackness of space like giants watching a stranger. Omega Strike, the pride of the Galactic Council, had never failed a mission. Each ship had advanced shields, smart systems, and experienced commanders. They had faced pirates, rebels, and wild systems before, but this was different. The Earth ship was silent, not silent like a ship waiting to talk, silent like a mountain before a storm. It had not fired, it had not moved, but its presence filled every screen, every radar, every heartbeat of the officers on board. On board the lead ship, Captain Duro stared at the glowing dot on his screen. The human vessel gave no identification, no signal. Its blue light pulsed, again, not fast, not slow, like it was breathing. "Why doesn't it do anything?" whispered his first officer. "It's just waiting." Captain Duro didn't answer. He had no answer. Something about the ship felt wrong but not dangerous. In the usual way, it didn't threaten. It didn't hide. It just existed, like it was in control of something much larger than itself. The engineers reported something strange. Systems across the fleet were beginning to behave oddly. Power levels shifted without commands. Auto-targeting systems kept trying to lock onto the Earth ship but couldn't. The computers tried and failed again and again. Each time, the message was the same: target undefined. In the command ship, Admiral Threx had joined the crew. He stood behind the captain, arms crossed, watching quietly. "Hold position," he said calmly. One of the crew turned in his seat. "Sir, another ship has gone dark. No signal, no damage reports, just disappeared." Everyone stopped moving for a second. "What's happening?" someone asked. No one answered. The Admiral gave a new command: "All ships, scan for energy fields, cloaked devices, anything that could explain this." But all scans returned empty. The Earthship had no visible weapons, no strange tech, just the same smooth black shape and that steady blue glow. Captain Duro tried one last time to communicate. "This is Captain Duro of Omega Strike. We request identification. If this is an accident, respond now." Silence. Then every ship's communication panel lit up at once. A voice spoke. Not mechanical, not emotional, just steady. "You are within range. Leave now." Then silence again. The officers looked at each other. "Within range of what?" someone asked, but no one knew. Another moment passed. Then the stars around them seemed to flicker. "Sir," said the navigation officer, "our positions are shifting, but we're not moving. How's that possible?" The stars flickered again. Suddenly, the screen blinked. 2 more ships gone. No signals, no sound, just empty space where they had been. Panic began to spread through the fleet. Messages flew back and forth. Systems failed to respond. Lights flickered. Screens flashed random code no one could read. One officer on a nearby ship yelled into the fleet channel, "We have to pull back. We're not fighting a ship, we're standing inside something." Then the light on the Earthship changed. The first time, the blue glow turned white, just for a second, then back to blue. On every ship, the crew stopped moving. No orders were given. Everyone just stared. The Admiral gave a quiet command: "Pull the fleet back." Immediately, the engines roared to life, but the ships didn't move. "We're stuck," said the captain. "We're not locked, but we're not moving," as if something invisible held them in place. Another flicker. Another ship gone. A voice returned. This time, softer. "You were warned." Then everything went still. The Earthship didn't attack. It didn't chase. It simply began to turn peacefully and started drifting away. The Council's finest fleet stood frozen. Only 4 ships remained. No one spoke. They didn't know what had happened. They didn't know how it had happened, but they understood one thing clearly. They had never been in control. The silence felt heavier than sound. The 4 remaining ships from Omega Strike floated in space, their systems flickering, their crews stunned. They had arrived expecting a simple mission. They now stood in the middle of something far beyond their understanding. Inside the command ship, Captain Duro leaned forward, eyes fixed on the main screen. The Earthship was still drifting away, slow and steady, like it had no reason to fear anything. There were no visible weapons, no sign of damage, and yet it had somehow made 8 of the most advanced warships vanish, without touching them. Every attempt to scan the Earthship gave the same answer: data incomplete. The computers simply refused to explain what it was made of, how it moved, or how it operated. Even the ship's shape seemed to confuse the sensors. Sometimes it looked small. Other times it looked larger than it should have been. The data didn't make sense. But one thing was clear, something had changed. Then something strange happened. The stars behind the human ship bent just a little, like a ripple in water. Onboard sensors blinked. New readings appeared. The space around the ship was not empty anymore, it was moving, folding, breathing. The science officer whispered, "Sir, we're detecting layers, like space is not flat here." "What does that mean?" asked the captain. "It means the ship might not be in space the way we are. It might be somewhere else, just close enough to see." Captain Duro turned to Admiral Threx, who stood silent, watching the ripples. The Admiral didn't speak. He seemed to already know. Then, without warning, every screen on every ship turned white. Not bright, just blank. No sound, no input. Just a slow hum, deep, soft, and steady. A single symbol appeared on the screens, a circle with 3 smaller dots orbiting it. No one on board recognized it. None of the Council's databases had seen it before, but somehow everyone felt like it meant something. A warning, a signature, a message. Then the ship's AI restarted on its own. The voice returned. "Do not return. This is not your path." When the systems came back online, the human ship was gone. Not destroyed, not warped, just no longer there. Only the ripple remained, slowly fading into still space. For the first time in years, Admiral Threx looked uncertain. He turned to his staff. "Status of the remaining ships." The answer was soft. "All systems are stable, sir, but energy levels are lower." Almost like something was taken. Threx narrowed his eyes. "Taken," the science officer explained carefully. "Not physically, but some of our systems. They feel empty, like data, power, or maybe time." No one spoke. The Admiral gave one command: "Return to Council space. Record everything. Nothing gets left out." As they turned around, the ships began their journey home. But even that was not easy. The route back was different, like the stars had shifted slightly. Their return took longer, and all 4 ships recorded strange signals in the background. Patterns they couldn't decode, like echoes of something that was no longer there, but had once passed by. Back at the Council, when the reports arrived, there was disbelief. Some members laughed. Others thought it was a trick. But Admiral Threx did not laugh. He placed the recording of the voice, the disappearing ships, and the unknown symbol in the highest security archive. "We sent our best," he said to the Council, "and it wasn't enough." Someone asked, "Do you believe the ship was a weapon?" Threx paused. "No," he replied. "I believe the ship was watching, and we walked into its view." That night, for the first time in decades, the Council called a quiet meeting. No news was released to the public. No celebration, no explanation. Only a simple update marked in the system: "Contact with Earth classified. Do not engage." But the message the humans left behind continued to echo, not in the stars, but in the minds of those who had seen it. And that symbol, that quiet circle with the 3 dots, it began to appear again, on distant satellites, on deep space probes, and once, even on a Council station screen, with no ship nearby. Something had changed, and though the Earth ship had left, it hadn't gone far. It had simply reminded the galaxy that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, silence watches and remembers. The journey back to Council space felt longer than it should have. The 4 remaining ships of Omega Strike moved slowly, guided more by caution than orders. No one spoke much. The usual chatter on internal channels was silent. Officers sat at their stations, working carefully, their minds elsewhere. Each of them had seen it, the Earthship, or whatever it was. It hadn't attacked, it hadn't shouted, it had simply acted, and when it did, 8 powerful ships were no more. Inside the command ship, Admiral Threx sat in his quarters, staring at the recorded data. He had watched it a dozen times. The strange ripple in space, the soft, steady hum, the symbol, the warning, "Do not return. This is not your path." He wasn't afraid, but something deep inside told him this was not just about Earth. It was about understanding. He called for a quiet meeting with the science team. Only 4 members joined him in the small briefing room. One of them, a young sensor specialist, said something that caught everyone's attention. "I think the ship wasn't using our space." Threx raised an eyebrow. "Explain." She tapped on her pad, showing a series of energy waveforms. "It was present, but not fully here. It used something like phased movement. It was here enough to see, to touch if needed, but not fully locked in our dimension. That's why our scans failed. Another scientist added, and that's why our weapons couldn't track it. It's like trying to grab a shadow on water. They looked at the Admiral, expecting disbelief, but he simply nodded. Continue your study, quietly, he said. The Council will want answers, not theories. By the time they returned to the Council base, a silent crowd had already gathered. Leaders, officers, analysts, all waiting to know what had happened. Threk spoke carefully. There was no battle. There was no fight. We sent strength. They answered with silence. And still, we were removed. Some members demanded proof, so he showed them. He played the recording. The ripple in space. The voice, the disappearance of ships without sound. The unreadable symbol. And then the voice again. You were warned. The chamber fell quiet. Counselor Dran, the same one who had laughed before, now leaned forward slowly. Do you believe the ship was sent as a threat? Threx looked at him. No, it was not a threat. It was a mirror. A mirror. Someone asked. Yes, Threx said. We came expecting weakness. We left realizing how little we understood. The Council wanted more details. But there were none. Then came the strange part. One of the remaining 4 ships reported something odd. A small device had appeared inside their ship, placed in the core systems without being detected. No alarms, no signs of forced entry. The device didn't harm anything. It simply existed. It had no known energy source. It just gave off a soft pulse, matching the rhythm of the Earthship's glow. The Council's best minds examined it. No one could open it, no one could scan through it. Then, one night, without warning, the device projected a soft light across the lab. A new message appeared. This is not for control. It is for understanding. And then the light faded. The device remained still. After that, similar devices began appearing, one on a research base near the edge of Council space, another on a science station above a peaceful world, and one even appeared inside a sealed vault on the Council's capital planet. Each device did nothing at first, but slowly they began to show different things: maps of unknown space, codes written in unfamiliar languages, signals that pulsed with patterns no one could explain. Some thought it was a puzzle, others a test. The scientists called them echo seeds, silent gifts left behind. Like a trail of thought, the Council grew divided. Some members feared Earth now. They demanded restrictions, guards, and warnings to all fleets. But others wanted contact, peaceful, respectful contact. Admiral Threx didn't speak in public, but behind closed doors he shared his view. Earth didn't want war, he said. They wanted space. And when we entered that space without listening, they simply asked us to leave. One counselor asked, but why leave us those devices? Threx looked out the window, into the stars. Maybe they're inviting us to learn, he said. Or maybe they're still watching to see if we're ready. That night, in a quiet sector of deep space, a new signal appeared on a listening post. It was soft, steady, and pulsing like before. Not words, not music, just rhythm. And on the edge of that rhythm, far beyond known space, a single light blinked once, blue, then white, then gone again. The Council's halls, once filled with loud debates and proud announcements, had turned quieter in the days after the fleet's return. Whispers had replaced speeches. Curiosity battled fear. For centuries, the Galactic Council believed it had control over the stars. But the silence of a single Earthship had shaken that belief. The 4 surviving ships of Omega Strike were kept in isolation. Scientists walked their halls carefully, studying not the outside, but the strange changes inside, subtle shifts in temperature, energy that moved like it had memory, and symbols that flickered briefly on walls and then disappeared. The most curious change was not in the ships, but in the people. Crew members who had returned began to dream strange things, not nightmares, not visions, but feelings of being watched, of hearing a rhythm in the quiet, of standing before something ancient and endless. They described the same sound, even when on different ships, a soft pulse, like a distant heartbeat. Captain Duro, once proud and certain, had become quiet. He spent hours alone, reading through data again and again, trying to find something he might have missed. But the truth was simple. There had been no battle, no weapons fired, no shields raised, and yet 8 ships were gone, removed, not by force, but by decision. In the Council chambers, the debate continued. Some believed Earth had found ancient technology, something forgotten by the galaxy. Others believed Earth had discovered a new path, something beyond war and defense, and a few whispered that perhaps Earth had not acted alone. Admiral Threx sat in silence during the meetings. He watched the arguments, the fear, the theories, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about the device left behind on the fleet's ship, the one that showed patterns, not commands. It had changed again. A new shape had appeared this time, not a symbol, but a star map, and on that map was a location not found on any official chart, a point in space, far beyond Council control. Quietly, without announcing it, Threx sent a small exploration vessel to the coordinates. No weapons, only scanners and observers. The ship was crewed by volunteers, young, curious minds, who wanted to understand, not conquer. The ship disappeared from sensors shortly after crossing into the marked zone. The Council panicked. Many believed it was another warning. Demands were made to recall all probes and block all signals from Earth. But then, 3 days later, the ship returned. No damage, no missing crew, but they had changed. The crew didn't speak for several hours, not out of fear, but as if they were processing something bigger than words. When they did speak, they said only one thing at first: we weren't alone. They described something strange, a region of space that folded in on itself, where sound behaved differently and time felt slower. In that space, they said they saw lights moving like thoughts, patterns in the stars that felt like they were meant to be read, not just seen. And then, the message, not through speakers, not through screens, but directly in their minds. This is the space between questions. What you ask, you must carry. What you learn, you must protect. The Council didn't know what to do with this information. Was it a warning, a lesson, an invitation? What troubled them more was that the ship, on its return, carried another echo seed. This one was different. It glowed brighter and showed not just symbols but memories. Not memories from the crew, but from something else. Visions of Earth's early days, when humans looked up at the stars and wondered. Flashes of machines that learned to dream. Voices that called across space not with pride, but with patience. A story told in light and motion, showing that Earth had not rushed to power. It had waited, watched, and understood. One counselor finally said, they did not build power to conquer. They built understanding to survive. From that moment, everything began to change. The Council slowly stopped referring to Earth as a new member. They began to call it something else, the listener, because that's what Earth had done. It had listened to the silence of the stars, listened to the mistakes of others, listened to the rhythm of something deeper. And now, after centuries of quiet, Earth had spoken, but not with weapons, with silence that held meaning, with presence that held weight, and with symbols that felt like keys. Keys to something no one else had dared to unlock. The energy inside the room shifted the moment the human commander, Marcus Ellen, stepped onto the bridge of the warship Sol Vanguard. The quiet hum of the systems, the soft beeping of monitors, it all paused for a second, as if the ship itself knew something important was about to happen. He didn't speak much. He only nodded once toward his crew, all focused, calm, and prepared. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to shiver, but it wasn't the stars they were watching. It was the strange distortion slowly moving across space. Not an enemy ship, not a fleet, something else. For days now, the galaxy's best forces had vanished in the same direction, without a trace. No debris, no signal, just silence. The Galactic Council had sent their top warriors, their most advanced technology, yet none returned. That strange silence was now approaching Earth's outer defense line. Marcus turned toward the alien strategist seated on the edge of the command platform. Trexon, from the Icana species, his large black eyes showed concern. You still think this is just a test? Marcus asked. Rexan hesitated. No, I think it is something older, something the Council forgot about, or chose to forget. Then why send their best ships? Marcus asked. Because pride blinds reason, Trexon whispered. As the strange distortion grew closer, the Sol Vanguard began to adjust its orbit. Sensors tried to lock on, but kept failing. The distortion wasn't giving off heat, light, or any measurable energy. It was like space itself was folding, bending around it. The crew watched the scanners in silence, every reading more confusing than the last. Marcus walked to the center of the bridge and placed a hand on the control pillar. The ship's systems recognized his touch. Lights dimmed, and holograms of the surrounding sectors flickered to life. "Prepare the shields," he said calmly. "Keep weapons on standby. I don't want to fire unless we have no other choice. We won't get a second chance to make sense of it," Trexon said, studying the distortions. Suddenly, a message flashed across the console. It wasn't from the approaching object. It was from one of the missing fleets. A single sentence. No audio, just text. "We didn't lose. We surrendered." Gasps echoed across the bridge. Marcus frowned. Surrendered to what? The ship trembled softly. A vibration, not from impact, but like something very large was near. The screens flickered. The distortion stopped moving. It was now sitting still in space, facing Sol Vanguard. Trexon leaned forward. "It sees us." Marcus kept his gaze on the screen. "Then let's make sure we see it too." The crew tried a deep scan. Something strange happened. Images began to appear, not of a ship or a weapon, but of memories. Human memories. Old battles, ancient ruins, images from Earth's past, even from Marcus's childhood. One screen showed his mother smiling. Another showed Earth, covered in clouds. Marcus stepped back. "Is this scanning us or speaking to us?" Trexon stood slowly. "No, I think it's remembering us." The ship's AI spoke up in a quiet voice. "Captain, the object, it is not metal. It is not alive, but it's not empty either. I believe it is." Aware before Marcus could reply, a small light appeared near the front of the distortion, a soft blue glow that blinked once, then again, then stopped. All systems calmed. The ship stopped shaking. Then came the second message. "The humans are different. We wait." Marcus and Trexon stared at each other, not with fear, but confusion. The crew was silent. No one understood what had just happened, but one thing was now clear. The strange presence wasn't here to attack. It was here for them, specifically, for the humans. But why? And what would the rest of the galaxy do, now that the unknown had made contact but only with Earth? Something ancient had returned, and it remembered humanity.